Welcome everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so I think there's enough people here left, or to start. Hey, thank you for 3 likes. Awesome. Welcome guys, welcome. All right, so let's start off with SPY here. Let me go back to the weekly time frame. So what you guys are seeing here is
someone's at the front door.
Oh. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so on SPY here, we have on the weekly time frame, we're looking at a very large bearish flag here. Okay, and hold on a second. Let me adjust my settings here for a second. I think my settings went back to the default. You guys should be able to hear me, right? Okay. All right, we're good. Okay, so like I said on SPY, we're seeing a nice bear flag here, and you know, with PPI data coming out, I think like 0.1% higher than the previous month. It's not a large increase, or a decrease actually, right? So that's a good sign, but obviously people had their eyes on inflation, the inflation data, and it was still high, right? It's still in the 8% plus. So that got investors really spooked, and they're spooked about what the Federal Reserve is going to do. So that's something that I think is going to really just have a chokehold on the markets for a while, maybe until the end of the year. So with the FOMC meeting coming up next week, I guess next week will be a little bit more important than this week, because the Federal Reserve is probably going to be scurrying around trying to figure out what they're going to release for the next FOMC meeting next week, and what Powell will have to say during the conference as well. I would assume that he will be very hawkish. He'll have very hawkish undertones, but he'll try to be as he should try to sound as dovish as possible, even though we all know the Federal Reserve still has a lot of work left to do in order to really extinguish the inflationary prices that we're seeing so far, and the fact that inflation is still haven't drastically gone down, back to back, and that's what Powell was expecting to see, but obviously he didn't get that. But yeah, so that's kind of the overview there. The markets didn't really react to PPI data, although we did have some sort of a positive reaction. But on a technical chart, it makes sense that we bounced today because, well, we're following this ascending support trend line. All right, we've been seeing this ever since mid-June and mid-July. So it's not really surprising that we're seeing this bounce, and for the fact that we're also right back down below this demand area, right, between 390.50 to around 396, It's not. It's a no-brainer that we bounce today. But I am expecting more downside movement. Okay, but the only way that's negated is if we start to accumulate at the bottom here with low volume, right? So if we start seeing an accumulation phase, so something like this, okay, maybe even if a large one like this, right? So if we see something like this, right, we see an accumulation base, some sort of upside down accumulation flag here, right, as we're going up and down, oscillating back and forth, okay, there's a good chance that we might just break to the upside again. And as we're doing that, as we're going to the upside, okay, we might even just retest this ascending support trend line right here, right? So that means we're definitely in the channel, right? Especially if we do decide to accumulate here, form an accumulation base, and then break out from that base, right? And obviously, if we go all the way up and retest this upper channel here, right? That's also a great possibility that will be possibly actually. Let me actually recheck what I just said there. If we do actually retest this ascending support, ascending resistance trend line, that might just be the breakout that the overall market needs to start a new uptrend, right? And this pivot point right here, this area here, if we do make that accumulation base, just might be the place that we need to be looking out for the final pivot point for that new uptrend in the overall markets. Okay, so hopefully you guys understood that. Okay, perfect. Now, for tomorrow, okay, I'm expecting, okay, here's the thing though, I'm expecting possibly a break below 390 this week, right? Or even next week during FOMC meetings and the conference, okay, with Jerome Powell. But there's also a possibility, so that there you have to look at both sides here, right? Because we're at an inflection point with this ascending support trend line along with this 390 to 396 demand area. So if you want to see a bulls coming back, right, we need to be able to break above 400 again, and that will allow us to see a potential big macro intraday double bottom, right? And this will be the left bottom and this will be the right bottom, somewhere around here, okay? But that all depends on how we act tomorrow on the price, right? But if we do kind of follow this rounding type of bounce here, this W pattern or a double bottom pattern here, we should be able to come back above 400 and retest the previous highs that we made back in September 12th, right? So this double bottom should help us come back to that previous pivot point where we saw that pivot to the downside. But that all depends on tomorrow. If we start basing here, excuse me guys, if we start basing around this 390.50 to 396 area, we should continue to see buyers start piling in here on the intraday, and we can see a breakout tomorrow above 396 because well, this was a huge level of resistance on the intraday throughout the entire day today. If you go into 15-minute time frame, right, we retested this area around 396, 395.50 to 396.20ish multiple times, but we failed to do that as we head back down, right? And obviously at the last few minutes we saw a bunch of volume coming in, and that allowed the price to push up higher, right? So tomorrow, if we decide to continue, right, to move to the upside, back and forth, we need to break above 396 in order to head right back towards 400, and that will give us that intraday accumulation base, right? So one more thing here, okay? So with all the information, we were looking to break to the downside today, right? Because we had a nice H pattern forming, but at the very end of the day here, before the close, we saw a negation of this H pattern, which is inherently bearish, right? And instead of breaking below and staying below and closing below 392, so that we can possibly hit the 390 tomorrow, we actually bounced and closed way above 392, and we closed almost at 395. So this should give us enough of a room to kind of think about the fact that there's a possibility that we can break above 396 tomorrow. Okay, so that's something you guys should be looking out for. Any of the intraday time frames, especially if you're going to day trade. But other than that, that's mostly it for SPY. I don't really have much to go on off of SPY right now because we are at an inflection point, and this inflection point can be completely negated on the daily time frame, on a broader perspective, especially on the weekly time frame, since everything looks so bearish, right? We lost the weekly 10 and the 21 SMAs again, which we were using as support, and last week we're able to reclaim it. So this kind of volatility where we're constantly losing both the 10 and 21 momentum SMAs on the weekly time frame, right? So that's the broader time frame. Just tells you who's more likely in control here, right? And for the fact that we've been reversing ever since we've retested the weekly 50 SMA, that gives me more of a bias towards bears here, right? And for the fact that we're looking at a very large macro bear flag, if we do break below 390.15, then that's it, right? We come back down and retest the line in the sand level of 362.50, which should be another major level of support, and that'll be our second retest ever since we retested that line back in mid-June. Okay, so if we do see that retest of 363.50 in the near-term future, then we'll see a very large bounce and very large double bottom, right? So I expect something like this to happen, right? Where we just do this, right? So we have a nice big double bottom chart pattern here, right, on the weekly time frame. And who knows, that might just be our last and final inflection point before we start a new uptrend in the markets. Okay. Like I said, this 390.50 level is very crucial, and the psychological $400 level, right? This whole number psychological level that we need to be watching out for, because if we do break it again, there's a good chance that we can start recouping back the losses that we made the first half of this week so far, right? All right, so that is it. Okay, I just want to talk about SPY. Just do a quick live stream here for you all. If you have any questions, please let me know now. If you guys want me to go a little bit more in depth of SPY on the intraday time frames, I can do that for you guys. If you guys want me to go over the daily time frame again on the technical analysis side, then let me know as well. No questions? All right. Well, that's it for tonight then. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. I'll be doing another live. Hopefully everything comes into fruition of what I just said tonight. So hopefully for the people who are just watching this as a recording, make sure you guys remember the levels that I've told you. Okay, make sure you guys rewatch it if you guys need. So remember the levels.